Good morning, Shandalu. Today I'm gonna talk a little bit more about Phoenix Framework, the framework for web development inside the Elixir ecosystem, and mainly based on the Erlang experience, the Beam, the OTP, and all those decades of development for functional and all these systems. So I'm want to talk about a table that appears in a book, Elixir in Action, uh, where it compares two systems, saying like in some ecosystems you need several options of technologies to achieve some features in your system, but with Erlang you can like achieve everything with the same technology, and that's true. And it doesn't mean that you need to migrate your system or you are wrong if you are not doing it in that way. But it's some comparison that a lot of people have came to me and asking if that's real, and especially if it's really difficult, like it sounds like you need to understand a lot of stuff or learn or have a really special background, and it's not like that. So this is the reason I want to talk about this. Here we go. So yeah, I'm Fons and this is Fons Codifica, the YouTube channel where I used to share what I'm learning, and especially to fight the course of Sisyphus. So today I'm gonna show you this table in the Elixir in Action book, where it takes like 7 points, where makes a comparison of some technologies in the market. So for this video, I just built a little application where based in the Phoenix framework. This is a Phoenix framework. I think it's the most popular web development framework in the ecosystem, and it's really easy to create a new system. So based on that, I built this stuff where you can like have some examples of these points in the table. So everything here is based on the framework, and it's not really different from other frameworks in how it works. So all the orange boxes are mainly part of the framework. The red ones are like more in the OTP or Erlang side. And if you see the purple one is just some logic that I needed to wrote to have this application, but it's mainly only the framework. So like in other frameworks, you have an endpoint where you receive all your requests, you route to your server, and it routes to some controller where you decide what to do with your logic. So a couple of features that you have with the framework is that you have a queue in this way of publisher subscriber where you can like broadcast messages. So if something happens in one of the clients or one part of the server, you can broadcast everything to your clients. So you have like this sort of notifications or real-time features just using this feature of the framework. At the same time, you have presence where you can just use the feature to know who is connected to your system when, and in that way just use it to handle something or know about your connections in real time. So I'm using the module task and generic servers and the ETS key value store. So going back to the table, So the first couple of points are the HTTP server and request processing. So when you are working with this framework, you actually have solved that side. You don't really need to understand more about the server. I have worked with Tomcat, Glassfish, IIS, Apache, and when I'm working with Phoenix, I actually didn't needed to learn more about the server. I just started to code the application. So you have service for JSON, HTML, WebSockets, and you actually don't need to understand more under the hood. You just need to write what you need to serve in your system. Long-running request. In the past years, there are a lot of technologies that have been solving this hard work of computing for the web systems where you don't want to block your user while you're processing something that takes more time. So in this way, if you see over here, I have a Fibonacci computing, and it's not really optimized. The idea is that takes as much as possible to compute that. And if you see, when I load this, it's computing, but I'm able to do some stuff over the system. So I'm gonna compute this, and I will continue like doing some interactions inside the system, and it's not really blocking anything. So if you see down here, the words are not actually working in the front end. It's actually a service behind the system that it's generating words, and those words are being streamed character by character to all the different clients over the system. So if I open a different browser, you will see that I have Chrome, I have Firefox, but if you see, it's synchronized the streaming of the words. That's because there's a service behind. And when I compute something, I'm not really blocking that service. I'm not really blocking the counters. So that means that it takes some time to compute that Fibonacci, that unoptimized Fibonacci, but the system is working. And I don't really did something to handle that on the front end or on the clients. I'm using the options that the technology gives you to solve this long-running request. So now to understand a little bit more about the application, I have 3 counters. One, or the first one, is for the browser. So if you see, I have a value over here, but I have a different value over here. And that reason is because this counter is just working on the client. So if I reload this, I just lose the value for that counter because it's not really being stored in any place. But if I use this one that it's based on the client and it's really being stored in the server against the client, I can reload and I will have the same value. So I'm keeping the state. But if you see over here, the framework provides you a way to actually register users, authenticate, authorize, and all that stuff. But I'm not really creating an user for this application. I'm not authenticated. So if you see with presence and with the WebSockets connections, you are able to track your users and your clients. So if I open a new tab, it actually gets the same value for this client. But I'm not having, I'm getting a different instance of that store for my Chrome client. And in the same way, I could just open a private session, and I will have a different counter. So I'm able to track even if it's in a different session of the browser. But if you see, I have like synchronized this centralized store. So that means that at the same time I have a centralized store, a key value store, but doesn't even matter the client or if it's private or public. I'm just centralizing that, and I'm synchronizing this without without writing some logic in the front end or by browser. I'm just using the web framework. So going back to the table, the next one is server-wide state. So you have a state or the possibility to have an state across the system and actually across some nodes in your cluster if you have like a distributed system, just using the framework. I'm not really writing like complex code to handle these stores, key value stores, and I'm not using a different library or different system to handle that key value store. So this is not going to a database. It's just going to the memory of the system. The other one is persistence table. So at the same time, I'm as in the same way I have a service generating these words. I have a service generating transactions and creating new customers, and this is going to the database, processing the data, and then showing that updates to the client every time the system has a new transaction. So in the same way, I'm just using pops up from the framework to receive all these sort of notifications or broadcast messages to keep like synchronize all the clients in the same way we are doing this with the counters. Background jobs, it's this word generator. It's actually a service behind. It's not a separated system. It's just part of the monolith that it's working with that words in the same way the transactions and the customers are working, and it will just keep working all the time. And the last one, and one of the reasons a lot of people arrives to the ecosystem and starts to learn and have like questions about the ecosystem is about service crash recovery or fault tolerance or resiliency. So a lot of people have asked me if it's actually something real that the systems are almost like running all the time, even if there's some failures or crashes. And the answer is yes. And you don't need to like do like really complex stuff, because you can just rely on these decades of software like working on the Beam OTP. So for this purpose, I added two buttons that are actually generating a crash inside the system. It's not something simulated. It's actually crashing the system. So if you see here, I have this browser counter just in the side of the browser, and when I crash the system, I receive an error messages because I'm actually generating an error. But if you see, the system is like continue working in the browser, and it's keeping the counters feature behind the system. I'm receiving the words from the service, so I'm not really there was an error, but I'm actually continue receiving the service of the system. So for other purposes, I can crash this centralized store, and I will continue receiving all the service from the system. So I'm gonna destroy this key value store, so that will generate a system crash. But at the same time, I'm going to trigger some computation behind the Fibonacci stuff. So it's been computing, and at the same time, I will destroy in this browser the counter. I will receive an error that something really bad happened in the system. But if you see, the Fibonacci computing occur in the same client, occur like when you are like reloading here. And actually, if I try to use the counter, it just keep works, and not only in the client, actually works across the system. So that's a really cool stuff in the technology, because especially because I don't really need to write like complex code. I just need to use what the framework and the technology gives you. So this is what I wanted to talk about in terms of this table. It doesn't mean that you need to migrate your system. It doesn't mean that something is wrong and other is like better. It's just a way to simplify the way we write systems and deploy features. So if you want to know how to build these features step by step, keep track of the YouTube channel. I'm Fons. You can find me on X or Blue Sky or YouTube. And if you want to know more about this, just write me a message. Thank you very much to see you until the end, and Felices Mates.